is the reason.
Welcome back to OpenLine, talking about gun violence across the country and gun violence here in Nashville. A panel up here that has a lot to say about it, a lot of calls. We're also streaming on Facebook, several comments there. Philip Woody Coppage said, where is the problem of drugs in all of this? We can certainly address that. I want to go back to the phones though, and let's go to Lucy. Hello, Lucy.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, what's on your mind?
Well, what's on my mind is, let me just get this right on the table here and now. I am a bastard child. I am the second bastard child of my mother's, okay? So what little time that my father, had with me, he instilled a seed, but there is no way that my single mother could have made it without laws, like curfews, like different curfews back in the day.
Right.
And when I was born, it's the time that you would have jumped off the bridge before anybody would have found that your child's going to be a bastard, because the community could have treated that child differently. But thank God I came up in the neighborhoods that I came up in and were exposed to people who told me about myself when I was doing wrong.
That's right.
And they didn't know that I was a bastard child. So let's get all that out of the way. I want to talk about what Buford Toon had said about respect.
Right.
And the guy that had done something on Facebook, I don't have the internet, about, my gun hasn't killed anybody. Well, let me put it to you this way. Not yet. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm angry because some children have gotten their hands on guns by irresponsible gun owners, leaving their guns and weapons available where children can open a car door, surfing at night, pick them up, or break into a house, or walk into a house and pick them up, or in a garage or whatnot, and walk away with them. And I'm not even going to get into the gun store burglaries. But what I'm saying is that one day that gun's going to be probably used on me, and I'm a responsible person because that's how I was raised. And there are two murders in Nashville that I will never get over by young adults. One is Krispy Kreme Al, and I want to go to the trial to find out why they had to shoot him that night. And the other is the Egyptian man that worked at a store in Madison a few years back. And the reason that the teenagers gave for robbing and shooting and just murdering that man, he gave them the money, was because they wanted money to go get an apartment together and go get an Xbox or something ridiculous. So I really like this panel. I have a lot of respect for Clemmy Greenlee. She's one of my favorite Nashville citizens. And you three people sitting up there, more power to you. I think y'all are fantastic. We do need more mentors. We do need more community members to tell a kid about themselves. And we need some of these parents to tell their kids about themselves so they can get over an insult and laugh at themselves or make fun of themselves before they go slinging it at somebody else, and especially a 9mm.
All right, let's talk about some of what she's saying. Obviously, she's saying we're washing guns. There's too many guns. She takes on some of the people saying guns are inanimate objects. And I want to ask you, Alicia, you were shot by your ex-husband, right? Who had some mental issues. There was a restraining order. You were shot 5 times, as you said earlier. Where did he get that gun? Where did the gun come from?
Several years prior, I want to say 4.5, there was a diseased rabid dog. We lived across from an animal sanctuary, and it wouldn't let me in the house with our son. He was a baby, and it would block the door. And so I called up my dad and I said, hey Dad, can we borrow your gun? There's a rabid dog that's not letting me in the house. I'm afraid it's going to bite me or our son. And so he let us borrow it, and since then, like from that time, he never would give it back. My dad would ask about it and he wouldn't give it back. And then when the order of protection had come into play when we were going through our divorce, I told the officers then, I said, he has my dad. Does he own a firearm? I was like, no, it's not his, it's my dad's, but he has it and he doesn't need to have it. He needs to give it back to my dad.
So the gun used to shoot you 5 times came from your dad.
Yeah, there are some laws that could be changed on some stuff. Like I said, for my part, as an adult, the way that things are handled domestically, you know.
Again, you'll hear people saying, "What can be done? What could have stopped that?" Lucy's saying we're just so awash in guns. That's the problem. There's just guns everywhere. And yeah, your gun hasn't hurt anybody now, but what about tomorrow? Somebody gets it, it falls into the wrong hands. That's, I don't know.
You've got to lock them up, and you have to be more watchful, you know, like there's a lot that can be done. And like I said earlier, there's a part to play for everybody, you know, and you just find where you fit. You find, you know, if you're going to be a responsible gun owner, you know, I'm not saying, Daddy, don't, well, that was bad, you know, I'm not saying that.
Right,
because that was you know, that was to protect us, that was to protect our family. But it should have.
Look, it turns on and it turns around and gets used on you.
Yes,
so
but
that's horrible.
Yes.
Let's go to David. Hello, David.
Howdy.
Go ahead.
Okay. We live in a world with 3 dimensions, and in our nation, we only want to look at 2 dimensions. So let's have a quick history lesson, shall we?
All right, you have 1 minute.
Years ago, we didn't have all this violence. And we didn't have this violence because people who were born into poverty could walk down the street, catch a bus, and get a manufacturing job anywhere. In America, we didn't allow uncontrolled immigration because one party or the other betrayed their constituents, and the only way they could hold their offices was to allow uncontrolled immigration. And it's the problems of a dying civilization. So if you want to get rid of the gun problems and the violence, you've got to do something about uncontrolled greed.
Okay. All right. Yeah, let's bring that back to economics. Interesting to bring in immigration, but I think it all fits in with economics. And I guess you were talking about that at the top of the show. I mean, economics plays some role in all of this. With I guess 45 seconds here before we go to break. When we're talking about poverty, when we're talking about economics, you know, how does that play into all of this?
Well, for me, I mean, if you got a family that's going through something, you know, poverty or poor, what have you, you know, it would be real easy for someone to step in and say, we're going to help this family out. You know, that would be easy. But then it's also easy enough for this kid to say, hey, you know what? I know I can get me a gun. And if I get this gun, my stomach won't be growling because I'm going to see this person come out of his or her car, and I can put this gun to his or her face, and that's going to show fear, and I can take whatever I want. So, with that being said, you know, once again, as Alicia said, everybody has a role to play in this.
All right, let's take a break. We'll take a break, be back right after this.
My ex-husband would